Okay, so I'm getting to this video about a week late, but oh well. I had some business come up last week, so we're getting to this now. The Super Mario Galaxy movie. There's been quite a bit of discussion, quite a bit of debate about this particular movie, about whether it's just Gen Alpha iPad Kid slop, or whether none of that matters and it's just a good movie for kids because it keeps the kids entertained. There's two sides to this coin, whether it's someone who, looks at this and says, well, this really wasn't that good, but then you got other people who just really enjoyed it. And I feel like the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but today I have decided that we shall watch this video from Tectone called Moist Critical Has Lost It. And the reason why we're watching this video is because this is a reaction of Tectone to Moist Critical's opinion of the movie. And basically they have two very different opinions when it comes to this movie and how we should think of it. Charlie, obviously, has his opinion, which is quite negative, whereas Tectone has his opinion, which is quite positive. And I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle, so if you're looking for a video to get all sides and all perspectives on this particular film, then you've come to the right place. So, let's jump into it and see what these two gentlemen have to say. And as we go along, I will, of course, give you my thoughts and context as to where I think each of these people have correct opinions, incorrect opinions, etc. And of course, mine is the only objectively, fully correct opinion that you should listen to. So like and subscribe, and let's get into it.
This one is really got me riled up because I know what this video is about, and we're going to talk about it. I'm actually curious where Moist lands on this because I know he parrots a lot of Reddit's opinion. So let's see where the grand almighty fence sitter sits on the Super Mario Galaxy movie drama. Let's get into it.
Surprised to learn that there's big drama bubbling over in regards to the Super Mario Galaxy movie.
Yep.
And
this shit was so good. And
it was fine.
if you saw it, you knew it was so good. It was a kid's movie, so go in knowing it's a kid's movie. Enjoy it for what it is, which is essentially a very long YouTube short. It was good fun for the whole family, and you should enjoy it.
So, my thoughts, initially, yes, it was a kid's movie, and yes, you should enjoy it for what it is, but I will get into this later. Just because it's a kid's movie doesn't mean it has to be, as Tectone puts it, one long YouTube short. I don't know about you, but I can't stand YouTube shorts. It absolutely kills my attention span, so that's not really high praise in my opinion, but let's actually let these two people say their piece before I dig too deep into it.
Because that's who it's for. Okay, I'm not going to go in to a film made for 85-year-olds as a 6-year-old baby and think that my opinion fucking matters because I'm not who the film was made for.
reception.
Actually, if you were 6 years old, you would think your opinion matters, but that's beside the point.
To it.
And the movie was fantastic.
I just noticed that I'm pausing a lot, Tectone's pausing a lot. This might be unbearable for some people, so I do apologize. Anyways.
I gave it a 92%.
So, in a nutshell, there's actually a few...
What was that?
Fantastic. I gave it a 92%.
Okay, that's... that's, quite a lot. So what would you give 93%? That seems quite excessive. Again, I'll get into it more later.
So, In a nutshell, there's actually a few different things going on. A lot of bloody battles being fought with mangled corpses left in the wake. The Thunderdome that's claimed the most souls here is about the critic.
If you think that your job, your sole purpose in life is to be a critique of children's movies, I don't give a fuck what you're saying, bro. I'll listen to the people who actually went and watched this shit because they just wanted to pass the time and have some fun rather than,
That was me.
let me see how deep these plot lines are in this movie made for 6-year-olds. It was legitimate. It was a good kids movie, and then it was a nice nostalgia flick for anybody who's middle-aged like myself.
Score versus the...
Well, you know, I went into it as a fan, but I also feel like I can point out flaws where they are, so I don't think you have to purely just go into it as just nostalgia, which I did. I went into it just for nostalgia, but, you know, you can also be a little bit of a critic too, because that's, you know, if you don't hold things to a higher standard, you're never going to get great art. So that's where I stand.
The audience score on
And
Rotten...
the reason why they're so upset because there wasn't enough gay representation and there wasn't enough black people in this movie.
That is
Tomatoes.
true.
People are
Kind
having
of.
a fiery conversation, a lot of shit and
For some
spit
people.
flying about the discrepancy between the two, arguing that it illustrates that critics are just this worthless fungus that are out of touch and don't represent like real taste, and the audience score is the only reliable metric on Rotten Tomatoes. And I actually half agree. I'm not exactly the biggest fist-pumping enthusiast for critic scores. I'll often check like what critics are saying
I've never once gave a fuck about a critic score, never will.
about a new
Unless it's IGN, and then I like shitting on them.
game or a new movie or show that's come out, just to kind of get a gauge of what to expect when going into it.
And to be honest, when I go to IGN to look up a review, I'm mainly going to look at the comments of the people who have actually played the game.
But I never take their
Yeah, and so review aggregators, you know, you can't just rely on them. Like Tectone said, is you kind of have to look at individual reviews and find people, you know, find critics that you actually trust and then go off their opinions rather than the opinions of however many bots have flooded Rotten Tomatoes this week or whatever. I don't know if there's bots. I haven't paid close attention to Rotten Tomatoes in over a decade. That website's been trashed forever.
word as gospel, and whatever
True.
score they give it
Never should.
isn't something that computes in my head and changes the way I view it.
And of course, form your
But it
own
is something
opinion
I at least
once
look
you've
at,
seen it.
Though I don't put a ton of stock into it. And this is coming from someone who always gives an opinion on like new games, movies, and shows. I do that very often.
Well, you definitely say a opinion, Voiced. And it's usually the one you found off of Reddit. I don't know if you ever give your own opinion. Because last time you did that, you said that trans kids are real. That one was wrong.
Yeah. Whenever that happened, I honestly kind of lost a lot of respect for Charlie. But, I mean, I don't really dislike the guy. I just kind of recognize that tends to be low information on important things, so I pretty much only watch him for whenever he covers slop, basically. And these days,
Never considered myself a critic. I'm just
yeah, don't shill for the idea of trans kids and expect me to take your opinion seriously after that. That's kind of a game ender there.
a fucking guy who goes and watches a bunch of shit and plays a bunch of shit, and I'll just tell you what I thought of it. That's kind of the end of that. Not a whole lot else to digest there. So you can agree or disagree with it till the cows come home. I'm never really trying to give some kind of like objective metric on if something was actually like amazing or dog shit. Just in my eyes, if it was great or poo-poo. But I fully, whole hog, full chub disagree with the other half of the argument that the audience scores is the one that's actually indicative of the quality of something.
Well, I mean, you'll have, if a movie's even halfway good, you'll have a lot of people who feel like they have to defend against the critics, and so they'll flood the movie with, you know, perfect 10 out of 10 reviews, when maybe they really only think it's a 6 or 7. 6, 7. Yeah, so they only think maybe it's like a 7 out of 10, but I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 just to stick it to the mean, nasty critics, and yeah, so That's kind of where I think a lot of this comes into.
I absolutely agree with that one. The only one that I ever thought was wrong was Iron Lung, because that movie was awful. Love Markiplier, and I'm glad for what that film represents, but man, that movie was god awful.
So, Tectone gives the Mario movie, the Mario Galaxy movie, a 92%, but Iron Lung is terrible. Okay. I see that we have very different opinions when it comes to movie ratings. I didn't think Iron Lung was a masterpiece, but I enjoyed it, so there you go.
This from the mountaintops for years that Rotten Tomatoes, Jesus Christ, I sound like an actual Neanderthal. Rotten Tomatoes audience score is almost as useless as Pam Bondi. It's not like that's somehow more reliable in any way, shape, or form. Now,
Dude, Pam Bondi was so fucking useless, I didn't even know what the Attorney General was. Which, to be fair, I've never claimed to be a political commentator. I just like talking about current events and what's going on in the world. But yeah, when the Attorney General is so useless that people forgot what they're supposed to do, that's pretty telling.
Reviews, especially in recent times, are extremely all over the place and, you know, oftentimes very out of touch. I agree with that. But audience scores, it's not like they're free from that sin either. Basically, every movie ever that comes out has a pretty high audience score on Rotten Tomato, no matter how terrible it is.
I'm gonna fact check that.
Yep.
One of the movies that I fucking hated lately was FNAF 2. That movie was fucking terrible. FNAF 1 was great. What did the audience score think? Oh yeah, the audience is retarded. If you rated FNAF 2 at an 83%, you're just stupid.
Yeah, so, alright, we got this example. Friday Night at Freddy's 2 getting an 83% versus a 10% critic score. Let's actually try this ourselves. Let's try this with, if my thing will work, Snow White 2025. Go away. This one got a 69%. So, again, that's a lot better than this movie probably deserves. Now, I didn't see this one, because I don't feel like subjecting myself to that. But, again, we are looking at a situation where the audience score is way higher than the critic score, and I feel like the critic score is more accurate on this one. Probably, just based off of what everyone has been saying and the trailers. So yeah, generally speaking, the audience score is going to be much higher because you're going to have people... Honestly, this is just toxic positivity. People just want to put a bunch of good reviews out there because, hey, we got to stick it to the critics. But yeah, both are cooked in different ways to differing degrees.
Okay, all right, hey, Charlie, facts. You spitting here, you spitting.
Something could hit the theaters tomorrow, you know, The Haunting of Titty Nippleless, and it'll be the worst thing your eyes have ever seen. Like, actually an affront to God. And then you'll check the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's like 75%. And genuinely, do this right now. Any movie that you've seen that you didn't like, check the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It's probably pretty high. Like,
let me double check Iron Lung. Oh, it's cooked. This was 2 hours and 40 minutes of straight garbage. Straight garbage. Oh, okay, Charlie's spitting right now, man. Good shit. Good shit, King.
Recently, Scream 7 came out. That movie's pretty trash. 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. Do this for anything. Look at one of the worst Disney movies to come out in recent memory, Snow White from last year.
Oh yeah, we
69% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Checked that.
Score.
69.
Look at the worst Marvel movies of the last half decade. 75%, 77%, 79%.
Yeah.
And as I said before, this is why I haven't used Rotten Tomatoes in over a decade, because this website is just, if you think it's even halfway accurate, oh my goodness, you are so behind with the times. Jeez. We've all known this website's been trash forever.
That's a little rough, man.
76%. it is a given that anything that comes out is gonna have a pretty respectable Rotten Tomatoes audience score. It's almost a guarantee, like the sun rising every day. It's very, very rare to see like an actual catastrophic audience score for a film. Like even The Strangers Chapter 3 from last year, genuinely the conclusion to the worst horror trilogy ever made. And just as a reminder,
I just want to check one more thing on Rotten Tomatoes. What did Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey get? Because this is generally probably the worst movie I've ever seen. Even that has a 49%. Which is... oh my goodness. I'm like having PTSD flashbacks remembering this movie. But 49% is an abomination to God. I swear, like, y'all, all y'all that rated this positively, you need to go to confession. You need to go to the church and ask God to forgive you, because this is unholy.
Go to the church and ask God to forgive you.
so I'm not a big believer that the audience score is somehow the correct metric. Because no matter what, it's always going to be significantly higher than it should ever have any
True.
right to be for things that are actually bad. So Super Mario
Facts.
Galaxy movie having a 90% doesn't mean that it's a masterpiece that just critics don't understand. It just means fans are very excited about it. And thus they go and just storm 10 out of 10 reviews, which
Yes, and this is exactly what I said. You can like the movie. You can even give it like a positive review, like a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. That's average or above average, which is a positive review. That doesn't mean that it has to be a 10 out of 10 just because, you liked it. I feel like today there's no room for nuance in a lot of people's opinions about whatever, movies, politics, whatever. And so, it's all or nothing. It's either a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 at the high end, or it's 1 or 2 out of 10 at the low end. And I feel like the art of giving like a 5, 6, 7, those like mid-range reviews is kind of been lost on a lot of people. Now, if you look at my Letterboxd profile, over here, you've got my ratings. I've rated over 1,000 movies on this website, and as you can see, you got a nice bell curve where the average is like 3.5 stars out of 5. So this equates to about a 6 or 7 out of 10. And so, yeah, I feel like the majority of movies are going to be in this middle range. Because the majority of movies are, not everything's perfect, not everything's garbage. And so this gets into where I rated the Super Mario Galaxy movie at 2.5 stars. So in my opinion, what that means, this is a 5 out of 10, is that this is an average to slightly below average movie. Don't hate the movie, I actually quite enjoyed myself, but I'm not going to pretend like this is some great piece of cinema that, when you compare this to actual great kids movies, because that's the argument, is that, well, it's a kids movie, kids enjoyed it, therefore it did its job, and therefore it's a great movie. I disagree. I think that it was an entertaining movie. I did love all the references and stuff, but it's also not, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. That was a great movie, great kids movie from just a few years ago. That is an actual 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 caliber movie. And if you're like Tectone and you give this a 92%, you're saying this is a 9 out of 10, in what world is the Super Mario Galaxy movie a 9 out of 10 in the same conversation as Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Shrek, Kung Fu Panda, The Lion King, Pinocchio, Fantastic Mr. Fox? These are all animated kids movies These are all great, like actual great movies that most people, 90% of people, will agree that these are great movies. In what world is this even in the same league as those other movies? And this is the problem I have, is that people will just spam toxically positive reviews on things that don't deserve it, and say that anyone who doesn't go up to that standard is just a hater. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I don't think that you have to throw stuff like this out as just trash because it's, you know, oh, it's just slop, it's whatever. I think that's also equally disingenuous and stupid. So, yeah, that's where I land. That is my middle-of-the-road opinion.
Backs the score way up, and everything's always positive. Like, the audience score isn't much better than critics, is the point I'm making.
I think the big thing that everybody should do is not give a fuck what anybody else is saying about movies or video games or shows, and just watch them for yourself. Give it 30 minutes, and if you like it, keep watching, and if you don't, fuck it, who cares?
And I will agree with Tectone here. At the end of the day, please just make up your own opinion. Please, have your own opinion. Actually, think for yourself for once. Yes, you can take advice from people. You can look into what other people are saying. But at the end of the day, you need to make your own opinion. And, yeah, that's just a fact.
That easy.
Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I gave you my thoughts on it a couple days ago. Overall, I think it is worse than the first Mario Brothers movie, which I actually really enjoyed.
I gave the first Mario movie a 7 out of 10, and I gave this one a 5 out of 10. So in both cases, I'm saying that the first Mario movie is an average to slightly above average movie. I liked it. Second movie, I still liked it, but I thought it was just a little bit worse. Again, no hate. No hate coming from me, but I'm also not going to pretend like this is some great cinematic masterpiece.
Nah, it was way better. First one was great. Second one was way better. I gave the first one probably like an 8.5. Second one a 9.2.
Tectone says it was way better. Okay. When I saw it in theaters, I literally sat next to a 5-year-old who agreed with you. So congratulations, bald man. You have the same opinion of a 5-year-old. Literally. Yep, throwing shade.
Fucking loved it.
I think it is a huge step backwards. It is basically
have your own opinion.
Jingling Keys, the movie. A lot of people are calling it that, and that's exactly what it is. It's a movie that has pretty much no substance at all. There's not even really a plot. There's a few plot elements that constantly are jumbled around. It
was a very full movie, I will say that. It's constantly stuff happening, which, is why they say it's jingling keys, because we gotta keep just going to the next thing. We never have a moment to breathe, which, I think that you kind of need to have those moments in order to, let the audience catch their breath and, take in what's actually going on.
It's a mess in everything except for its visuals.
The visuals
It's
were
like
good.
we watch different movies. Like, what are you even talking about? The whole point of the movie, the whole plot of the movie is established in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
It does have a plot.
Rosalina is in trouble, and they need to go save her.
Yes, it's not like it didn't have a plot. It's just very bare bones, is, I think, the proper analysis to have. So, again, I'm landing in the middle here. I'm not saying, there's no plot, it's all just mumbo-jumbo, but I'm also saying, it had a plot, but it wasn't that deep.
Which is the exact same plot of Super Mario Galaxy, which is the exact same plot as Super Mario 64. The princess is in trouble. They need to go save her. And that's it.
Yes, but here's where I would, here's what I would argue. What makes a good video game, because Tectone is talking about, it's based off the video game, so therefore it's going to have the video game plot. Okay, I mean, you can still base it off the video game, but the difference is, I think what makes a good video game versus what makes a good movie is two different things. Movies are primarily stories, whereas video games are primarily puzzles. right? So, like, a movie needs to have a good story most of the time in order to be good, whereas a video game, it can have, you know, a lacking story or even no story at all, but as long as the puzzles are fun and engaging, I think that's mostly what people play them for. Like, Pac-Man is a great video game, but there's no plot to Pac-Man, but it's a fun puzzle, and therefore people like it. Now, that's not to say that you can't have a good story for a video game, like the Zelda games, for instance, have a pretty, you know, much more in-depth lore to them than the Mario games. Much more, you know, interesting story, and, you know, I'm sure there's plenty of other games that have, you know, great stories, or even better stories that I don't know of. I don't really play that many video games, but the point that I'm trying to make is that at the end of the day, the game mechanics, the puzzle that you're trying to solve, is a much more determining factor into whether or not a game is good or not, versus a movie. You kind of have to have a solid story in order to keep people engaged. And, so yeah, just because the Mario games have pretty bare-bones plot doesn't mean that the Mario movie needs to follow suit. I think that, you know, you can expand a little bit and not just go with, oh, Princess is in trouble, beat the bad guys and go save her, because, you know, otherwise, it's like, I don't know. The point I'm trying to get at is that movies and video games are different mediums, different products, and I don't think that holding one to the same, you know, holding them to the same standard is always necessarily correct. I hope that made sense.
There was also side plots.
Probably not.
Okay? Figuring out who the fuck Yoshi is. Okay?
Okay, figuring out who Yoshi is wasn't really a plot. They kind of just found Yoshi and then, oh, he's part of the crew now. There was no figuring it out. That was over in like 2 minutes. So, yeah.
Grouping up with Fox McCloud. The biggest one is, was Bowser evil or not?
And this is, the Bowser plotline, I think, was the strongest point of the movie. Unfortunately, I don't think they quite stuck the landing, but that was, for me, the most interesting part. If you could say that there was a good plot element to the movie, I would say that Bowser's character development was probably the best. Although, again, I think that at the end, they kind of just, you know, as soon as Bowser got to Planet Bowser, and he saw his minions, all of that character development just kind of went away, and he was back to square one of, well, I'm just the evil bad guy now. Yeah, I thought, okay, so all of that character development before kind of just didn't mean anything in the end. So that kind of lost me a little bit, but I guess you can justify it by saying, well, he's with his son now, and he wants to do right by his son. Okay. I will let it go. Maybe I just don't get it, but I do think, actually, in terms of what positives I can give to the movie, Bowser and Bowser Jr., those two, their relationship to each other, I think, was the best part of the movie.
Did Bowser have the capacity to change? Does Bowser Jr. have the capacity to change? It's a pretty straightforward plot.
Yep.
Established very quickly. It was great.
Yes.
Yeah, the movie was well-paced. I wouldn't say it's jingling keys, the movie.
Well, it was constantly fast-paced, so I would necessarily not quite agree, but it was consistent. It was a sprint from start to finish, which, I guess if you like that, sure.
Something was going on at all times, and yeah, that's probably good for a child audience, but I really don't think it was that ADD.
Animation is stunning. It's very colorful, and it's very fun animation to watch, especially with the fights, and the music is absolutely slapping. They got Boner Jam.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Animation and music was good.
The OST was awesome.
And they sound great. But as a film, it is not very good. Basically,
It was great.
the film's formula is, here's something, and now that something is solved in the next 3 minutes. So that way they can get to the next something and just keep ham-fisting cameos till the cows come home the entire journey of this film.
Brother, it's the Mario movie. What the fuck are you expecting from Mario? Did you go into Super Mario 64 and just say, I don't know. Like, I need more emotional depth to this game. No.
Well, as I explained before, video games and movies are completely different. You're looking for different things for what makes them good. So, this is kind of a moot point, I think, from my point of view.
It's fun. And that's exactly how the Mario games were played. You play as Mario, there's the overworld, you need to find the princess, but you need to go to Bomb-Omb Battlefield first. You need to go to Dire Docks first. You need to go to fucking Tiny Huge Island first.
Yeah, and these are all puzzles.
The movie was true
They're not
form
plot points,
for
they're
any
puzzles.
long-term fan of the franchise. And that's how it should be. How does anybody have this critique of the Mario movie? It's exactly how it should be.
Of this film. It is basically a movie that is all designed to just have you point at the screen going, oh, I recognize that, I get that reference.
Yeah, it was a fan for nostalgic. It was a movie for fan. It was a movie for nostalgic fans of Mario and kids alike.
Yeah, I enjoyed the nostalgia. That doesn't mean I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10, because, like I keep saying, I can enjoy something that is maybe not perfect or amazing, but I can also critique it where it needs to be critiqued. This wasn't Shrek. This wasn't Puss in Boots. This was the Super Mario Galaxy movie, and that's okay. You know? It's okay. You can enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, they had cameos, and it was cool. What the fuck is this guy smoking?
You know, it's basically like the Star Wars formula where fans, glup shitto out anytime they recognize something. That is the Super Mario Galaxy film.
I'm not gonna lie, I lost my shit when Pikmin, of all people, arrived in the Mario movie, and then I lost my shit again when I saw that Little Mac was in the movie for 0.2 seconds, and I didn't notice him. It was awesome.
It is entirely
And yeah, that's exactly how it was advertised.
built around just, here's like a small problem that is so small that we solve it in 2 minutes. So that way we can get to the next small thing and show you some more cameos, and then we can solve that real quick to get to the next thing. The story flows like it's actually a child playing with...
Like, what did you want them to do? Mario do like a training montage? Like, oh, okay, so Rosalina gets kidnapped, and they have to go to this planet, and then they meet Fox, and then they find Peach
action
again,
figures.
Like, I am so shocked by how dog shit of a review Moist Critical has. I'm glad I didn't watch his pre-existing video talking about this, because this feels like rage bait to me.
Well, what if Charlie just has that opinion? Like you said, watch it and form your own opinion. Maybe this just is his opinion. And, as I've been saying, my opinion, it's somewhere in the middle. Yes, I can enjoy what I enjoy while also critiquing what I have to critique. It was a fine movie, but not a masterpiece.
I'm surprised he has this awful of opinion on how good the movie was.
And making up a story as they go along. And then Mario beats them, and then Bowser gets teleported out of the bee mines right after he hits the first rock, so he's reunited with his son, and then he forgets all about Mario and Luigi and their friendship, so that way they can blow up things in the universe with Planet Bowser.
But they didn't. There was a whole scene where Bowser was having a moral dilemma on who he cares more for, his former or his newfound friends that he just forgave for imprisoning him, or his fucking son. Where Bowser Jr. was going to kill Mario and Luigi, and then Bowser said, no, son, maybe we don't do that, because he still had a soft spot. And so we were wondering, who's he gonna pick? And then obviously he picks his son.
Yeah, one of the best parts of the movie was the Bowser part. That dynamic with Bowser Jr., that was actually really good. I'm just saying that the rest of the movie was... It had a plot, it was entertaining, but it wasn't that deep. That's all I'm saying.
The same movie, or what are we talking about here?
And everything it gets solved real quick. It's just...
This must be the popular take to give right now.
a mess. It is genuinely a mess. But like I said, it is Jingling Keys the movie, so kids are absolutely going to love it. And that is mainly what it's catering to, more so than the first film. I thought the first film was enjoyable for anyone of all ages. It was just a good time. This is solely for children, I would say. Or
As a 30...
Well, children and people who are just fans of the game. Which, I'm not a child, so I fall into the latter category. And, yes, I think that I'm going to not play the rest of the video. I will leave links to both Tectone's video and Charlie's original video in the description, in case you want to check all of it out. I will just give my closing thoughts here, is that, at the end of the day, you can have whatever opinion you want, but what I would say is that if you're of the opinion that this is just a terrible, awful movie, then okay, I can see that. It's not Casablanca or anything, but also give some grace to the people who actually do just genuinely enjoy it, because, you know, it is, at the end of the day, it is just a fan experience. People will like it for that reason, and that's perfectly valid. If you want to like it for that reason, also recognize that this movie, if it's not a 9 out of 10, it's not a 10 out of 10, it's not an 8 out of 10. That's supposed to be for the upper echelon of art, I think. And if we're just gonna give those ratings out for whatever, it muddies up the water for what is a great movie, or a great piece of art. My opinion was that it was a 5 out of 10. Okay, you can disagree, and in fact, you know, I would actually venture to say that if I had to change my rating, I would be more likely to change it upwards to maybe a 6 out of 10 instead of, you know, downwards. Because, you know, I'm right there in the middle, you know? It's fine. It's whatever. I think that it is a problem that people are just saying, well, it's a kids' movie, get over it, as if we can't demand higher standards for kids' movies. As I've said before, you know, all these examples of great kids' movies of the past, like Shrek, like Pinocchio, you know, classic Disney movies, classic Studio Ghibli movies, these are kids' movies, and they are actually great. Great cinema. The Mario movies are not that. That doesn't mean they don't have their place, but we need to actually take a step back and recognize it for what it is, and just, you know, try not to get too upset with people who have differing opinions. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Like and subscribe, and I am out.